In 2004, uh, the Willamette Week broke a story about Neil Goldschmidt molesting a girl at the age of 13. And as the articles unfolded, thanks to Margie Boulay, who interviewed Elizabeth Dunham toward the end of her life again and gave more details, uh, he continued that for, I think, 17 years. He followed her around, including when she went to New York to try and start over with an acting career. He followed her back there and demanded sex. And it was just a horrible predatory disaster, which he avoided prosecution because of the statute of limitations. But fear of being outed, I think, is what caused him to decide in 1990 to not run for re-election. But the thing that I want to talk about here is that Elizabeth Dunham used to go to a restaurant and bar right across Park Avenue from Nordstrom, called, I'll think of it. But he, some of my buddies would go there and have a few drinks after work. Trial lawyers are very prone to going out and having a few drinks together after work. And it's partly to let down, stress reduction. They also exchange all kinds of information with each other, the most recent court rulings and so on. It's partly an educational activity, believe it or not. But anyway, I would do that with them occasionally, but not very often. My late wife was not demanding that I get right home for dinner, but of course, much of the time we went to work and drove home together. But also, she didn't have an iron fist, but she expected me, and my daughters expected me to be home for dinner. So usually I was. And one of the few regrets I have about that I wish I'd done a little more drinking was that Elizabeth Dunham was going into this restaurant and having a few drinks and then blurting out that Neil Goldschmidt had destroyed her. And I really regretted that my trial lawyer buddies didn't tell me about that. I never heard about it until 2004 when the Willamette Week outed him. Long after he paid her off to move to California, leave town. They never told me. One of them, one day, when shortly after my late wife died, I had fallen in love with one of her dearest friends who lived in San Rafael, California, and she would fly up once a month and stay with me for the weekend, and I would fly there once a month and stay with her. Well, she wasn't too keen on sleeping in our house right after my late wife, her friend, had died. So I went and had drinks with these guys. I said, "Any of you going to leave this weekend, and I can do it like borrow your house for the weekend?" And this one guy said, "Yeah, you can borrow my house." So I took her up there, and it was a sort of a modest house, but it was up in the West Hills, up in a kind of a ritzy area of town. Well, we walked in, carried her little bag into the bedroom, and on the wall, hanging, a whip. And she said, "Oh, what in the world?" This was only the first time she'd come up here after our relationship had started, and she didn't know me all that well, I guess. But so she, "What? What is that? Are you planning on whipping me?" And I said, "Oh my God, no, I've never been in this house before. I never seen that whip. I had no idea it was there. And I'm so sorry." Well, didn't take long to reassure her. And we spent the weekend listening to You're No Good, You're No Good by, come on, say it. Uh, so, but years later, I discovered that the guy that loaned me that house was in a long-standing affair with Elizabeth Dunham, and never told me a word about what she would blurt out when she'd had too much to drink. So, as I say, that's a time when I guess I wish I'd done a little more drinking, hung out a little more in that restaurant, and been there one night when she had too much to drink and was telling about Neil Goldschmidt raping her and destroying her. It's a sad story. But if I'd have been there and heard that, I would have outed him so fast. You can't even believe it. And it would have changed. That would have been in 1996. He wasn't outed until 8 years later. Think of it. I would have outed him so fast. I would have had no fear, and I would have known how to do it. But these guys didn't tell me. And I didn't go there quite often enough, I guess.